Good afternoon, and welcome to Finding Community After College, a Future Alumni Week event. My name is Tanaya Harris, and I am a member of the Student Alumni Association's Garnet Circle. Garnet Circle works to foster relationships between students and alumni to prepare students for life after graduation. Future Alumni Week serves this purpose by providing May graduates with all the tools for success through a full week of events. Today, we're focusing on social success, and we'll cover many more topics throughout the week. You can check those events and register to reserve your spot at ufscalumni.org/events. We'll be awarding prizes to those who attend the most events at the end of the week. Now, it's my pleasure to introduce our presenters today. One member of the Alumni Association's Affinity Council. Danny Bounds graduated in 2011 from the Master in Higher Education and Student Affairs program. He currently works with the Tennessee Department of Education as a federal programs ombudsman and stays engaged with U of SC through his participation in the Young Alumni Council. He also stays connected with his professors, which has helped him affect change on campus, including the creation of the Richard T. Greener statue several years after he graduated. Please welcome Danny.
I know the Zoom struggle these days. But again, thank you so much, Tanaya, for that introduction. Like she said, my name is Danny Bounds, and I am currently a member of our Young Alumni Council. So I have the opportunity to serve the university to this day. After graduating over 10 years ago. I'm having the opportunity to create, again, like it was saying, effective change on the campus for our young alumni. And with that, I had the opportunity to be invited to speak with you all today. It has been brought to my attention that this is Future Grad Week. So we have seniors and, maybe even grad students, whatever the case may be, who are trying to figure out life after graduation, which these days is a little bit different, I feel, than when I graduated college and graduate school. But again, a little bit about me. I'm originally from Memphis, Tennessee. I went to undergrad at Middle Tennessee State University. So I stayed in school. We had a Hope Scholarship that gave scholarships to our in-state students. So I had the opportunity to stay in-state and attend college. But right after I graduated college, I decided to go to graduate school, and which some of you all might be doing after you graduate. And so that's where I had the opportunity, the lovely opportunity to attend the University of South Carolina, the best institution, I believe, in the country. Yes, I do believe that better than my own undergraduate institution. But I had a 2-year program in graduate school at USC, and I'm a Gamecock for life. As you can see on my polo right here. And this polo is probably about 10 years old because I got it when I was in school. And so I kind of understand a lot of the questions that have been presented to me ahead of this presentation, as well as what you might ask now related to figuring out life after college. And so those 2 years at University of South Carolina, I have the opportunity to kind of do that, and we'll kind of dive in a little bit deeper as we get into some of the questions that have been presented beforehand. But now currently I live in Nashville, Tennessee, where again, like stated, I work for the Tennessee Department of Education. I did get my master's in education from South Carolina, and I also went to law school after working for a couple of years. And so I stayed in the state of Tennessee in Nashville, where I work at our Department of Education for the state, and I have the opportunity to work with federal programs and federal funding, the CARES Act, all the CARES Act funding that kind of went to colleges and everything. I've been working with that as well. So a lot of opportunities, but I have moved around a lot as a young adult. Probably about every 2 years of post-college, I have moved. So I kind of understand what it's like navigating moving in new communities and finding community, because that is very important in this day and age. And so I'm excited to talk to you all about how to do that. First, as you all are, again, college seniors, finding community is something that is amazing when you're in college, because once you find your group, your people, your core, your tribe, whatever it may be that you call it, in college, it is amazing to be able to talk to those people every day, hang out with them, whether it started out in the dorms on campus, or in an apartment, or in a fraternity or sorority, whatever it may be. You have the opportunity to really invest your time in finding people who you truly relate to, finding people who might share the same values as you, whatever they, or different values, whatever it may be. You've had this community for 4 to 5 years with you. But navigating that afterwards is a little bit tougher. My hope is that today, by answering some of the questions that you might have for me, that I might be able to assist in navigating that. I'm the type where I love to have people ask me questions first. I like to be interactive. I like that opportunity. I know we have the chat feature here in this presentation. So if you want to just pose questions in the chat about finding community, please feel free. But if we do not have any questions posted, or if some of you all might be a little scared, then I have a couple of questions that I know that are probably on the top of your minds that I'll be able to answer, that we'll be able to work together and just kind of talk about. But before you all start asking questions, like I said, finding community is very important. We were born in this world to experience connection. And as we become older, those connections with others are super important, because again, you need your village to have those social opportunities, to have those emotional opportunities, physical opportunities, whatever the case may be. You need your village, you need your core group of people. And sometimes it's a little tough when you graduate from college, where you have a group of friends that are surrounded with you all day, and then all of a sudden you go and do your own thing, start a new job, and you're somewhere new, where you don't know, and all you have are your coworkers that you barely know and you're trying to impress. And so finding that is very important. And you all have experienced that tremendously, because COVID was a major aspect of your college career. I could not have imagined going to college during the COVID years, to be honest. It's been hard enough working from home. As you can see, my kitchen is in the background. I miss my colleagues. I miss my coworkers. I miss talking to people. I miss elevators and just saying hello. I miss that. And so the fact that you all have had to navigate social gatherings and experiences in this COVID era, I know has tremendously impacted your experience as a student of the of the University of South Carolina, but also just understanding how to be social again. Because as you all are graduating and entering a new phase of work or going to school, we're kind of in this weird place of like, are we opening up? And it's kind of weird, And so some of you all might have opportunities to go into the office. Some might still be virtual and starting a job completely virtually. As we continue to talk about navigating community and finding that in your next steps after college, I just also want to make sure that we keep that in mind, that pre-COVID, maybe when you were a senior in high school, you went to prom, you had graduation, hung out all summer, did your thing. But right in the middle of your college experience, you had to deal with COVID your sophomore year. And it has completely shifted what socialization and community truly means. And so I just also want to acknowledge that and say congratulations for getting through that. But also understanding that y'all might have a couple questions about that too, about post-grad. So I just wanted to acknowledge that. But we'll go ahead and get started. Are there any questions as of right now that anybody wants to post in the chat that we would like to talk about? Let's see. All right, so I'll go ahead and I see the first question. Did you know anyone in the new cities you moved to? Where do you even start when it comes to meeting new people? All right, so I'm going to date myself a little bit here. I started college in 2004. Facebook came to my college in 2005. And for y'all that do not know, Facebook started off on college campuses before it kind of spread out to the whole world. Sometimes I feel like I should have stayed on college campuses, but that's a whole nother story for another day. But what I will say is that I truly believe that Facebook kind of assisted and helped me find community in new places. Like I said, right after undergrad, I went to University of South Carolina, where I had the opportunity to be a part of a master's program. Now, in that master's program, it was a little bit smaller. We probably had about 40 people per class or cohort, is what we called it. So about 80 to 100 people in the program. And so with that, you were taking classes with the same people, had many opportunities to meet people, whatever the case may be. But when I started out in the new city, I didn't know anybody. I think I knew one person at the University of South Carolina because he had attended there too. So he kind of introduced me to people, and said, "Hey, I hear you're coming to USC. Um, Here's some people that you might, that I think you get along with, that you might just want to reach out to, who share same interests with you, whatever the case may be." And I just took him up on that opportunity. And I was like, "Hey, my friend told me that you were here. I'm new. I'm going to be coming into town, in August. Would love to just meet up for coffee at Starbucks and just kind of get to know you. Just because I'm going to be new, and I just need to kind of see what it's like to be in Columbia and at the University of South Carolina, all of that." And that really helped. But as I was mentioning before, Facebook also really assisted with that because I posted in my status message, "Oh, I'm going to USC." Again, I'm dating myself. "I'm going to USC in the fall, and so people are congratulating me. People are saying, "Oh, I know this person that goes there. Please connect them," or they'll I hope I'm using the same right language, but they'll tag them in the post, right? "Hey, Johnny, Danny is coming to USC. Y'all need to meet." That type of thing. I think that really helped. I believe, just kind of get me more indoctrinated into Columbia and into the school. Um, I Although Facebook has changed a little bit, and I know people don't use it as much, I still think that social media in general is a great tool to connect with others in other cities, especially, when you have the opportunity to meet up with people and just get a chance to know them. Again, using caution, of course, but I always like to start with mutual friends. So if I have a friend that knows a friend that I can trust who they know, and at least start there instead of just trying to hit up random people who said they lived in Columbia at the time. So that's where I like to start. Just asking any of my friends, like making sure you just broadcast, "Hey, I'm moving to Charlotte, I'm moving to New York." And people will immediately start saying, "Oh, my cousin lives in New York. My friend from college lives in New York. You've got to meet them." I think that's how I have always been able to meet new people when I move to a new place. Let's see. Another question. I haven't been on campus since I've started at this campus. So having to socialize amongst people, especially with like majors, have been non existent. Yeah. And see, again, that's why I wanted to just acknowledge to you all that y'all have not, you've had, again, I don't know what your whole experience has been, but you probably had to take a lot of online classes. Your classmates have been, again, I don't know if you had to keep your cameras on or any of that, but you again, face to face. I'm with the same boat with my job. I started a new job in the middle of the pandemic. I met my colleagues for the first time last December, face to face. Everything else before then was literally just through Zoom meetings, Teams meetings, whatever the case may be. So it is a little tough, to kind of have those those conversations and meeting people. But one thing that you do share with everybody that's kind of going through the same experience is that you always, what I try to do is try to find a similar talking point. Every single one of us has experienced this pandemic in some way or another. And majority of us have been a little frustrated with this pandemic and are excited to get out and meet people. So I always, and again, it might be a little bit corny, but it's like, "Oh, well, glad to finally meet you in person. Glad to see you face to face," And I mean, again, it's like a immediate, like, kind of sigh of relief that I've used. And I mean, it kind of breaks the ice a little bit when you do have to be in those social experience, moments. And then you kind of have that common ground, at least something that you can relate to, because all of us have been impacted by this pandemic. So I would start there to kind of make it easier, since you really haven't been able to go on campus and meet people, and have those conversations with people. But then after that, the great thing, like, again, I met my supervisor for the first time in December. Again, she hired me through the computer, right? So through those interactions, honestly, it's just like getting to know a person. So it's like, okay, so tell me about life. How, what do you do? How do you handle this? What's your family like? Just little things. Again, just trying to get to know them, but also just talking about how has this pandemic impacted you. What makes you most excited about, let's say if it's two new coworkers, what makes you most excited about this new job together? What division are you going to be working in, and what will y'all be doing? Whatever the case may be. I think just trying to find those common grounds, commonalities. And again, the one thing that everybody has in common is that they've experienced this pandemic, and it's impacted them in very, very different ways. And so, again, we don't want any political or, whatever the case, conversations about the pandemic. I would probably not try to do that when you're trying to socialize and find community, because obviously there are many different views about the pandemic. But what I would say is just like, obviously it's impacted us all in some way, especially when it comes to socialization. So like I said, that awkward, glad to see you finally in person, face to face. I think that's always a good way to kind of start a conversation these days. I've done that a lot. And I'll be honest, it has not gotten old yet, and I'm hoping it'll get old one day, once, life gets back to the new normal that we'll be experiencing. Let's see. Another question. Hopefully that helped you, Selena. If not, do a follow-up question, and we'll feel free to, answer that. But let's see. Did you meet other Gamecocks in the area you moved to? Yes. You know, I have lived in, so ironically, I worked at colleges and universities before I worked before my current job, and I worked at the University of Tennessee in Knoxville, go Vols, boo, and the University of Georgia as well. So people were not very fond that I was a Gamecock. However, there were always Gamecocks where I went, and so whenever I did meet a Gamecock, it was a very easy conversation, because again, when you're in Vol country, when you're in dog country, you don't see many, but when you see that one, believe me, you're gonna immediately gravitate toward each other. And so I always say, like, if you see a Gamecock in a car, I would just do this out the window or toot my horn, whatever the case may be, just to get that smile and excitement. Because especially when you're not in like the South Carolina and even sometimes the North Carolina area where Gamecocks are more prevalent, it's always good to see another Gamecock in the area. Right now in Nashville, we're actually seeing a lot more Nashville people who are from South Carolina. I just built a house with my wife not too long ago, and we met our neighbor while building last year. And we were just talking, and we were talking about football season, and my neighbor 3 doors down went to South Carolina before me, but she's a graduate. And so we have that commonality, and immediately was like, okay, well, you're good people then. If you're from Carolina, you're good people. So I just always say, if you see a Carolina grad, whether it's through a t-shirt or in your car, try to acknowledge them. Because again, I really believe in the power of being a shared alum of an institution. And when you have that shared experience, I truly believe that people are willing to meet you, go to bat for you, and talk to you, honestly. And especially like in job interviews, you might have someone who went to South Carolina, and that always is a plus, because they're just going to talk about the days in the horseshoe and the football team and the basketball team, and you know uh, all these different things, that you can just have a genuine conversation about because it's a shared experience. Now, again, you all's experiences might be a little bit different because there was one football season you were not able to have, and like you said, you weren't allowed to go maybe inside the classrooms. But at the end of the day, you still have that Carolina pride, and so just again, even if you didn't have the shared experience of doing this, say, well, I was a COVID student. However, one thing I did love was sitting outside on that horseshoe because at least it was outside and we were able to kind of do that. So just trying to find that shared experience. But it's always good to be another Gamecock in your area. Let's see. So how did you go about finding housing in a community that you were unfamiliar with? That's a very good question. How did you ensure you found a good place that fit all your needs and was safe and affordable? So I'm gonna just go ahead and apologize to you all now that housing is ridiculous these days. And so I don't know what's going on with the housing market right now. Again, renting and buying is pretty crazy. And I'm not trying to scare, but I'm just trying to just kind of be a little transparent and real that the cost of rent is totally different from what you're paying in college. So just as you're talking to job and employers, just make sure that you're taking that into account when you're looking at the cost of living for where you're living, where you're going to move. Make sure that your employers, trying to at least work with you, with your compensation, because housing has gone up tremendously. I always say again, if you're moving somewhere, try to reach out to people who have lived there first. And so I know when I worked in Knoxville, I asked some friends who I knew went to UT Knoxville, like what are some areas that are not because I didn't want to live near the college students, at that time, because I had graduated from college. I wanted to feel grown. And so I had the opportunity just to kind of again reach out to people who I knew. But also, I am very, I think these days, especially with the cost of rent, also find people that you might know that people have heard of, that you can maybe be a roommate with. I know that it's our dream world to have our own one bedroom apartment overlooking the high rise, city and the river, whatever the case may be. But at the end of the day, when you're graduating from college, you're still in your young 20s, you're figuring things out. And so I would also reach out to, like, let's say if you get a job and you meet some colleagues, reach out to them. Say, hey, do you know any good places to live? Do you know anybody that's looking for a roommate that works for our company? Do you have any family or relatives that might be able to assist me, in finding a place? Just reach again, try to find people who you can at least have one connection in that city. Now, if you do not have a connection in that city, right, then I always say you take the trip yourself. Every place that I have moved, I've never moved somewhere without looking around first. And so I know what makes me comfortable. I know what areas I feel like I can feel safe in. I know what types of areas that I like to live in. And so what I've always done is taking a trip up to the place where I'm about to move. And I'll be honest, I went with my parents, and I'd say no problem with that. I mean, our parents know us. I mean, they've raised us. I went with my parents right after college. And I just toured the place. I drove around. I always start like downtown first in like the downtown area and just kind of move out. Of course, trying to see if I know people in the area to see which areas are good areas that you can live in, or that will be, typical, a good place to possibly look for apartments in. But again, if you don't know, just kind of do some research. Every big city, major city has some website, the Chamber of Commerce website, where they give you resources and tools to assist you with housing. And so just definitely look up those resources and tools. Familial resources are always, I think, the best. So again, that's family, friends, relatives, whatever the case may be. But if not, then of course use the web, use again, those tools that are out there, on the internet. But always, I would always just try to see for yourself before you move there. And again, it doesn't have to be a full weekend. It can be a day trip if it's driving distance, or if you need to take a whole weekend or a whole week just to observe the area. I always think that's very important, because that way you're able to kind of see, okay, what does it look like at night? What does it look like in the daytime? And make sure to ask those questions that you're concerned about when you're looking at apartments and picking out those places that you think you want to live. Um, you know, Ask the real estate agent or the leasing agent, whatever the case may be, and say, okay, so what, if crime's important to you, like what's the crime, like over here? If living around young people is important for you, then hey, is it lively? Is it fun? Are restaurants around? Like how far is your closest Kroger? Whatever the case may be. Sorry, I said Kroger. I don't know. I don't think South Carolina has Kroger. I can't remember, but Harris Teeter, grocery store, Walmart. We'll just go with Walmart, Target. But at the end of the day, like what's important to you, I would make sure to put those on your agenda. Always make your list of what are some areas that you really, or some needs that you really need where you want to live, and try to figure that out. And even if you put it in Google Maps, this apartment, but you see it's 30 miles away from a Target, then that's probably not where you need to live if you go to Target every week. So just kind of thinking about those situations right there when it comes to living. But I always say try to find somebody that you feel has lived there or knows somebody that lives there, and I think that will really assist you in the process. Let's see. Um, how did you utilize the alumni association to get connection with people in the community you were going to be moving to after college? And so let's see. Let me just make sure I read that question right. So, let's see. I didn't use the alumni association specifically, and I'll be honest with it, I did not. However, I did use alumni to get in connection with community, and so I when I graduated from USC, I was so focused on jobs and everything. I'll be honest, and the last thing I thought about was the alumni association, only because I was just so focused on just like getting my job, and it's a huge resource in my opinion that I just did not even think to use. And so I would definitely say utilize that alumni association. If you're part of the mentorship program that they have, reach out to mentors. If you've connected with different alumni, if any of you all get a job in Nashville, maybe I can drop my contact information in the chat or something, to where if you have any questions, you contact me. You now know me, and you're a Gamecock, so we're family now. So you can reach out to me. I would definitely utilize an alumni association. Look at some of our affinity groups and see where some of our affinity group members are residing. Again, some are all around South Carolina, some are in DC, some are in New York, some are in Atlanta. So see who's out there, and don't be afraid to reach out to them. Hi, I'm a fellow Gamecock. I'll be moving to Atlanta in September. Could you please just, can we connect? I'm visiting there in June just to kind of look around. Is there any way we can connect? Or can you just send me some places to go or places to live? Or what did you do to live there? Definitely utilize the resources that South Carolina has there. I think the Alumni Association has changed tremendously since I was there. And since I've been a part of the Young Alumni Council, it's been so awesome to see the growth of the Alumni Association and what we've really been trying to do to get our word out there. And so I would say all the resources that we do have available, and just the people who are out there active in the community right now, I would definitely say just reach out, because we are always available to help. There are Gamecocks clubs also pretty much in every city. In a Gamecocks club, they I don't know if they're like, I don't think they're like an official part of the Alumni Association, but they are a club organization that and Maggie, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but they're a club that usually meets to cheer on the Gamecocks for sporting events and just kind of gets together. And a lot of them have presidents that you can reach out to. So there are many opportunities and people that makes it very easy to stay connected with the community of Gamecocks. And so when you move to a new city, do not be afraid and do not hesitate to reach out. Let's see. How did you navigate finding activities and things to do in a new place? Where can you find out what clubs and organizations are in that area? That is a very good one. And I would say that's probably one of the harder things to do, because I truly believe that sometimes, as a young individual, because early 20s are kind of hard to navigate. I would have to say you're still figuring things out. You're still trying to figure out like what you like to do, what do you value. You leave this place where you're surrounded by everything that kind of meets your needs, and then you're just out there on your own, and you're just like, what the heck do I do now? And so I would always say just kind of find that one activity that you really like to do. So if it's, going to the gym, just make that your first priority. Like sign up for a gym, and that way maybe you can start getting social in that way. Or if you like to go hiking, find that place where you can go hiking and just do that on a regular basis. If you're a foodie and you just like to try new restaurants, find the top restaurants in the city that you're about to move to and go. I think that really kind of helps you try one get indoctrinated with where you live. And it kind of helps you kind of start independently a little bit. And then when you start meeting people, like whether it's at work or whatever the case may be, you can be like, oh yeah, I've been to that restaurant, or yeah, I work out at that gym too, and then that way you can kind of like establish a little bit of connection. And also just exploring the city. Again, opportunities have, especially through social media. I hate to again age myself, but the internet was a little different back when in my day. I'll just say that. And so the opportunities through social media are so much different, for you all. And you all are a social media generation that kind of grew up with it, unfortunately, in high school and all of that. And so with that, you kind of have this capability and capacity to seek and find things a little bit more easy than what I do. Whenever I'm trying to find something or something to do, I feel like an old man trying to figure it out. To where you all, I feel like y'all could just be like bang, 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 and you got it. Like it's you know where to go. So I would take advantage of that strength that you do have. Now that things I feel like are opening up a little bit more, I feel like more organizations are meeting in person again, or having opportunities to mix and mingle. And so I would definitely take advantage of that, because again, as you go into a new city, you also have to remember that a lot of people, and again, due to your own preferences, right? But a lot of people are excited about getting out the house again. And so, what I would recommend is taking advantage of some of these areas of interest, whether it be, the chess club, or like I said, a hiking club, or whatever the case may be. Finding those meetups, finding those groups. If it's a sporting group that you like, kickball clubs, a lot of people do that. Finding that and taking advantage of the opportunity to get out and meet people, because I really think that we are now we're going to be entering a stage where people are going to be more prone to getting out the house, because we've been stuck in the house for so long. So I think that being in a new city, not only will you have that, well, I'm new here type of experience, but you're also going to be in a shared experience with people. It's like, well, I've lived here for 3 years, but I've been in the house, so I'm ready to meet people, And so I think that's going to really be able to assist you as well. But be on the lookout, because also right now, you can join organizations, community service organizations, or, if you're in a fraternity and sorority, you can do an alum chapter of your fraternity and sorority. That's what I'm doing currently, which helps me and has always helped me, get acclimated. But, they're still doing things virtual as well. Some organizations are meeting virtually, and that's an easy way just to kind of sign up, turn on the meeting. You might not pay attention to the whole thing, but again, you're kind of getting acclimated to the group. So when you do move to that city, you can say, oh, well, I tuned into the Zoom meeting, and when y'all talked about um, this day of service that you all want to do in the spring, and I would love to get involved with that. And so that way, it's also an easy way, since people are still somewhat doing virtual meetings, they're planning for, bigger in-person meetings. And so right now you're kind of on the cusp of where hopefully by the summer, things will be a little bit more open and accessible, and, in-person events. Yes, this crazy housing market ruined your 2022 plans. Again, I I graduated in the Great Recession that they called it in 2008, 2009. And so I was just like, well, I'm just going to go back to school because the jobs aren't out there. So I totally get it. Again, there are ways to get, to find affordable housing. Um, but just be vigilant with it. In these day and age, you might have to find a real estate agent just to assist you in finding renting, just to rent. A lot of people just use them just to buy, but you might want to utilize them for rent too, because in that way they can just really assist you with the process, because it is very stressful. And I really feel bad for all of that right now. In the housing market, but Chardonnay, I completely understand. What are steps that you've taken to stay financially grounded as you become involved and active in your groups after graduation? Okay, financially grounded. So, you know, my wife would laugh because she would say I'm not probably the best financially grounded person. She's more of the budgeting person in our relationship, but um, I think the biggest thing that you have to do when it comes to being financially grounded is knowing yourself, right? If you know you're a shopper, if you know you don't like to budget, if you know that if you get a large sum of money at one time and you don't break it up or whatever the case, um, know yourself and utilize the tools to assist you. I'll give you one example of myself. When I first started out of college, I got paid once a month. I was always told that you got paid twice a month, which I think is a little bit easier because you get two smaller. It's the same amount of money, but you just get smaller checks twice a month instead of one big check, right? Well, like I just told you all, at 23 years old, I wasn't the most financially responsible, and my first job after leaving South Carolina gave us one big check a month. Now, again, it wasn't a big check. I was in education, so it wasn't a one like I was rolling in the dough. But it was a large sum of money. It was the biggest sum of money that I've ever experienced. And at 20 some years old, you're like, oh shoot. Well, after that first check, I quickly realized that it can disappear very quickly, and bills still roll. Just because some come at the first of the month, some come at the 15th, some come on the 20th, some come on the 31st. So that money has to last, right? And so one simple thing that I did is when I started my new job, I actually opened two bank accounts at the same bank. I went to Regions. I just went to a bank that I had heard of, went to Regions, and I said, okay, I just was honest with the banker. I said, here's my issue. I get paid once a month. I need to make sure that my funds are safe and that when they put this amount of money on my debit card, I'm not just swiping my debit card and thinking I have all this money and then I have a bill due, right? And so they were like, well, why don't you do this? You open one account that we deposit your checks in. So you have direct deposit to one account, and then you can take the money out of that one account and put it into your debit card account. So I had a check account and a debit card account. And that way, I was in control of how much money I put on my debit card. So I wasn't just out there just swiping it and not paying attention. And so that's just one example, I think, of being fiscally grounded as you become involved, understanding what's important to you. Everywhere that I've gone, a gym membership has been very important. So I've always just made sure that I know that I want to be active, in the gym. And so I always make sure that's a part of my budget. Um, you know, it, I think you have to, again, know yourself, know what you like to spend your money on, but also understand that as you get older, things might not come as easy as you have to become more responsible for your own funds. And some of us have been working. Some of y'all I know have been working since you were in high school or middle school, right? And so you know how to do this. You haven't depended on anybody to assist you, but some might not. We all have different stories, right? And so I think just understanding your own journey is very important. I used to, you know, buy, probably more clothes than I do now. Like I said, this polo is literally from 2011, I believe, and I'm just glad it can still somewhat fit. But at the end of the day, like, I haven't bought a lot of South Carolina gear because I still, wear, from back in the day. Because again, I have different priorities right now. I'm like, well, I'll just wear this same polo as long as there's no holes in it. I can still wear this polo, and so I can pay my electric bill that's due, uh, in 2 weeks. So I think it's just, again, just understanding yourself. And then as you get active in the different community and groups after your graduation, you see what's very important. I have a friend who's moved a couple times after graduation and has, kind of done different jobs. And one big part that he loves is his social life. He's like, if I need to meet people, I keep moving, a social life budget is important to me. And so what he always does, now he's a budgeter. I'm not a budgeter, but he budgets his social life budget, knowing that that's an important part of his life in general. And so he puts other things aside, while yet focusing on his social life and where he's at. So, again, whether that be, money for food, money for movies, whatever the case it may be. So then if somebody approaches him and says, hey, we're going out to this bar after work, do you want to join us for happy hour? Um, he's like, oh, yes, I'd love to go, because then he's already budgeted away his money to be able to do that. So then that way he's not, oh, sorry, y'all, I really can't do that. I just can't come, and because he knew that was very important to him to have happy hours with coworkers, to get to know colleagues outside of work. And so he made sure to budget that accordingly so he could have those experiences that he knew that he needed. In contrast to me, like I said, I might not, again, have a social budget, but again, like I told you earlier, I definitely had a gym budget where $30, $40 a month. I already knew, like, wherever I moved, that was going to go towards, where I was going to get my exercise. So again, I think know yourself, understand what you're trying to experience in the place that you're about to go, so you know that it can continuously be a part of your journey of getting to know the area that you're in, and your experience of meeting people and feel, just feeling good about yourself in the city that you're in, if that helps. Let's see. Morgan asks, how can you support your community when you just moved there? For example, how did you find local businesses that were good to shop at or eat at, or community service opportunities so that you can easily give back to the community? I think that's a really, really great question. And again, one thing about me is that I'm a local eater. I love local restaurants. And honestly, Columbia kind of taught me that, because, there were places that we would go in Columbia that I'm like, there's nothing better than pimento cheese sandwich from this place, or whatever the case it may be. So I'm a big proponent of local eateries. And so one thing that I always do is that to be honest, I'll look on online, like on Yelp, or I'll just type in on Google like local restaurants in Nashville. And so I always try to make sure those are the very first places I go to whenever I go to a new place. Or look on Instagram, because one thing about Instagram, the fact of tagging a restaurant, or adding your location where you go, sometimes I'll see friends in the Nashville area and I'm like, oh, that place looks cool, where are they at? And then I'll see that they tagged it, it's at this place, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go there next time. So again, and again, sometimes you can pick, you can type in a hashtag on social media, and it's local restaurants Atlanta, and you'll just see at posts, open posts of people at different restaurants, and then that way you can just kind of see what's new and what's cool out there. So I would definitely utilize, again, the power of social media for that, because obviously being in COVID, you've had to use social media a little bit more than probably what you would have in the past. But also what I would do is just, again, talk to the very best resource that you have is, when you have a supervisor at your new job, is just kind of talk about these things. Hey, I love to give back to my community. Do you know any local nonprofits that I could get involved with? You know, or if you have a colleague at work, again, that, you know, you've seen been active in, you know, American Cancer Society. Oh, what do you do for that? Like, is there any way that I can get involved, or whatever the case may be? Again, seeking those opportunities and not being afraid to ask, you know, I think is very important. I know when you first entered college, a lot of people, your orientation leaders might have told you this, you know, hey, if somebody invites you to something, unless, you know, again, if it's a very, if you feel comfortable, say yes, you know, because it might be something that, you know, you don't turn down an opportunity just to meet people and experience, you know, something cool that you might really be interested in. And so I would definitely say, you know, you have to understand that everybody's been in your shoes before. There are very few these days. There's so many transients that move in many different areas, you know, all around, to where, you know, like, for example, I live in Nashville now, and I have Californians, New Yorkers, um, people from Chicago, like, that all live on my one street, right? So everybody's coming from different areas, and we're all trying to figure it out ourselves. And so I truly believe, that when you go to a new place, whether it be a small town or a big city, you're going to have people that either have been there for a while or new people. So the new people, you maybe reach out to and say, hey, let's experience this together. And to the people who've been there for a while, get that history, get that knowledge, understand, you know, what the importance of this and that. So that way you understand, okay, this is the local place I need to eat. This is the community organization that's really big here. I really need to get involved with them. And that way you just really, again, enhance your experience and that moving, when you move to another place. So I would definitely say utilize the resources that you do once you get there. I think that would help beneficially. Do we have any other questions for me? Any follow-up questions? Anything that I said that wasn't very clear? Maggie, did you get anything else that people might have to ask?
I haven't seen any other questions on my end,
Okay.
so we can, yeah, I think we can wrap up, but just
Okay.
so all of our participants know, we'll also be posting this recording to our YouTube later. So if you want to refer back to any of this really great advice, you can find it there too. But Danny, I'll turn it over to you to close up. I think that was a wonderful session.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you all so much for just your, you know, just taking out time of your day. Honestly, I have been in your shoes before. Like I said, I've moved every 2 years after college, so I understand the struggle of just getting to know people and trying to figure out your way. But I promise, you are a Gamecock, and you are the COVID college, you know, generation, right? So y'all are going to be able to handle so much more than what you realize. And so I have a lot of faith in you, not only because of where I know you're getting your education from, but how resilient you've been over these past 4 years. My baby sister is a senior in college right now, and it's amazing to me how much she's grown, due to this COVID impact on her experience. And so I truly believe y'all are going to be able to just excel wherever you go. Again, I think the Gamecocks really helps that aspect. But what I'm going to do in the chat, I'm going to type in my information, just in case y'all ever want to email me any extra questions. I put my email right there, dboundsjr, Danny, that's dboundsjr@gmail.com. So please feel free, shoot me an email. Again, I'm a representative of the Young Alumni Council. So, you know, I really am trying to connect with our young alumni, and we're trying to do new and exciting things for you all as you graduate. So please, if you have any ideas or any other questions for us, or if this was great and you say, hey, I think this should be done again, you know, maybe we can collaborate again with Maggie or whoever, you know, whatever the case may be. We are here to serve you all. But again, go Cox. I've been so proud of our institution over these past years since I've graduated, and always proud to be a Gamecock. So thank you all so much for tuning in.